The Quit Your Job Challenge. It's funny, one of the ideas I had along the way was to help people quit the jobs they were suffering in, quit the careers they were suffering in, quit the businesses they had that they were suffering in. Like, leave the things that you're doing that you're suffering in and break through and take the leap and take the risk. Because it's been so valuable for me to do that. Like, I quit my career my mortgage career back in 2016 or something like that. I don't know, what is it, 7 years ago? The dang time frame. The timeline gets super fuzzy. But, and I, as I'm very focused now on my influence army community and helping people go on an influence tour, helping heart-centered entrepreneurs go on an influence tour and bring their message to market in a big way. But to get to that point where I am clear on my offer now and who I'm serving, boy, I went through lots of iterations. So that's what this episode is all about. My Quit Your Job Challenge, the Quit Your Job Challenge. So listen in. It's going to be super fun. You know when someone is selling from stage and at the end, the audience gets up and rushes to the back of the room to buy? That's a table rush. My name is Mischa Z, and the Table Rush Talk Show is all about bringing you the tools, strategies, and tactics that you can use to grow your audience and inspire them to buy. I know that was kind of a convoluted intro, but I was going through my podcast notes, my podcast episode notes. So whenever I get an idea, I go into notes and I'll type out the quick idea, or a thought, I'll type out the thought, or if I have an idea for the Influence Army, my Influence Army membership, community is a better word, community, family. I'll write the note in Apple Notes, and then I'll put a hashtag, like hashtag TIA, which stands for the Influence Army. So I can search the hashtag for any ideas I had for the Influence Army, or hashtag podcast. So I'll have an idea for a podcast episode, and I'll put a hashtag podcast on it. And probably a better thing to do is to record the episode in the moment, because oftentimes the inspiration or the thoughts or the passion behind the idea will slip away. So every now and then I try and go through my old notes and do the hashtag podcast search. And actually, I probably also have hashtag episodes. I think I was doing episode for a while, hashtag episode, and that's how I would be able to search my podcast episode ideas, what I wanted to record and talk about. And a great reason to do all that is so you can batch record on a walk or on a morning. So like this morning, I can crank out 5 episodes. I can go through my hashtags and record content. And it's a great, efficient way to do it. I love doing it on the fly, but I also like strategically doing it in batch recording. So anyway, you get the point there. I should actually name that framework. I'll call it the podcast batch recording framework. Ooh, I like it. Look at this. We're creating ideas and iterating together. So the podcast episode batch recording framework, my 5-point framework for being able to record more podcast episodes than you know what to do with. So you don't ever have to worry about what you're going to talk about or something like that. So anyway, I did my search this morning, and I came across the Quit Your Job Challenge from February 23rd, 2022. And again, basically, um, I think so many people are suffering in their careers, in their jobs. And I did. I was suffering in mortgages. I was gifted at mortgage sales for 15 years. I thrived in it, loved everything about it. I loved searching the data. I subscribe to these databases. Man, they're awesome. You can get all this incredible information on a house, on addresses, like who owns the home, what's the loan amount, what's the rate, what's the estimated value of the property, and then all this intricate details around it. And keep in mind, data is not perfect. Like there's lots of the data can be wrong or old, or the estimated value can be way off, or it's what happens is people also will make changes to the house so the square footage of the house isn't correct, or the number of rooms, or is there a swimming pool, all these things. But I used to love to search that data, and it's all via zip code, and you can extrapolate a lot of information via zip code. So if somebody owns a house on the coast and they've owned it for X amount of years, and there's an X amount of a loan amount on it, you can extrapolate a lot of information that there's going to be a certain amount of income, a certain amount of savings. Boy, in these days, man, you can combine that housing information. You could cross-reference it with actual Experian credit report information. Facebook searching information. This is the best rabbit hole ever. But you see how my mind works. So I love that. I love searching the data and then putting together lists. And then you can do reverse appends where you get the phone numbers. I believe they call that skip tracing now. Well, there's skip tracing. That's where you really, that stuff's expensive, but you can get the best information. And then, creating the flyers to get the phone rings, having the phone calls, pre-qualifying people. And then there's the whole actual getting the loan through side of things, pushing the paperwork, structuring the loan, getting the person, your buyer or refier, into the box, which is not always easy. But I loved all of that. And then overnight, I didn't. Overnight, it was painful. And I was literally how I just talked about passionately, about how fun all that stuff was. Overnight, it was horrifying. I couldn't do it. It was just grinding on my brain. And, I was divorced and and I had a little bit of money in the bank, and I couldn't imagine life without being in mortgages. And I was talking to God, literally, like, what's the next thing I need to do? What's the next thing I need to do? And praying about it and all this stuff. And I was just suffering for 2 years in mortgages. I became the problem. I became the guy in the sales meetings that I used to complain about, where I was like, if you're not happy here, if you're not into this, quit the business or leave, or like you're being toxic to us. And it was crazy how overnight I became the toxic guy. I was trying not to be. I was trying to smile and be supportive and be interested and be engaged and rah. But man, I'd lost it. And I was getting a minimum draw, and a lot of times I just wasn't earning the draw. And I went from overnight, again, from being the number one sales guy to not being the number one sales guy, and hating my job and hating my career. And in hindsight, the clear answer was I should have quit my job right away, quit the career, and made the space for the new. But I didn't. I kept on grinding, waiting for God to give me the answer on what the next career move was. Like I had it in my head that I had to know the next career before I could leave my current career. And when I finally became clear, all the pieces fell together after 2 years of suffering. I did all this work, all this really cool stuff. I could actually create a program around it. Oh my gosh, this is the best riff ever. But one of the things was, I'll save it. What it came down to was I need to quit my current career before I get to know what my next career is, what my next moves are. I have to quit. I just got to quit and leave. And so I quit and left the career. Never forget it when I went to talk to my boss at the time. I was like, I'm done. I quit. And he said, we'll match whatever offer you're getting out there. We still want you. Because I was so successful for a very long time that they still had faith that I would come around and, get out of my slump or whatever. It was literally just a matter of time, or the market conditions would shift or whatever it was. I'd get through my burnout. And I was like, no, man, I quit the business. And I'll never forget. What I'll never forget is he was amazed. He was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that too. It's literally what he said. I wish I could do that too. I'm so happy for you. I'm jealous. This is what he said. So anyway, I quit, and then the world opened up for me in such a new, beautiful, dramatic way. And, I got to have all this amazing family time with my 2 boys. I was a single dad. And so, I had money in the bank. And so I really just got to nurture time with my boys, get them through school. Anyway, you can go back and listen to a bunch of old podcasts, or I'll tell more of the story. But I believe that so many of us are suffering in our current position. And we're waiting for the next clear sign of, this is what you get when you quit, or this is what you need to do next after you quit. Like you're going to know what your new career is, or you're going to know what your new job is, or you're going to know what your new inspiration is. But the reality is, we just got to quit. Like that's the next indicated step, is to quit and walk away. And it can be so hard, because for me, it was so hard because my identity was wrapped up so tightly in being a successful mortgage guy, and being a successful sales guy, and being a closer, and, having a certain amount of income, certain reputation. And then all of a sudden, it was going to be gone. And I was going to be a jobless, single divorced dad, stay-at-home dad. I couldn't imagine life, without that. And I think I'll apply it to this, and then I'll wrap it up. But I'll also say there's so many things that, we hang on to and that are part of our identity, and we can't imagine what life would be like without that bit of our identity. And I think such a great question is, and I actually have this on my notes to do a podcast episode about, is, what if I didn't care about X? Or what if I didn't have to have X as a key part of my life? I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but I have the questions written down. Anyway, you get it. Like, what if I didn't care if I was a mortgage guy? What if I didn't need that, like I had anger for a bit? What if I didn't need anger for that edge to help me be successful? And actually, I figured that out. Hence the heart-centered entrepreneur. It's a much less the competition and that anger and aggression is much less of what drives me. Anyway, enough out of me. The quit your job challenge. Anybody who's suffering in their current job or career, I give you permission to quit. Now, If you financially fall apart, that's your thing and not mine. But I do give you permission to quit. And of course, per always, jump on the wait list for the Influence Army. So if you're a heart-centered entrepreneur, I can help you get your message out to market in a big way so you can scale your impact, your authority, your income. And go to influencearmy.com/waitlist, influencearmy.com/waitlist.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Table Rush Talk Show. For resources to help you sell your stuff, go to belove.media/resources. That's belove.media/resources. And be sure to subscribe, comment, 5-star, and share. Thank you again for listening.